Hello and welcome back to Abs Talk Sport. Manchester United have been completely demolished at home by Liverpool once again. Now here are three main talking points coming out of this game. First of all, elephant in the room. Casemiro should never play for Manchester United again. It's a player I've been speaking about for the past 2 seasons. At the beginning of last season, we just saw a huge decline in his ability to cover ground. What that was coupled up with was an insanely tough to understand decision by Casemiro to then lunge into more challenges as his legs were fading. Usually what happens with players as they age and their legs start to go is that they're a bit more conservative in their game. They'll be reading the game and be covering space rather than diving in. Casemiro's decided against that. He's decided to be against the grain, against the norm. As his legs began to fade, he decided to get involved in more duels, which defies logic and understanding. And when played in this system, the way that we're playing right now, sticks out like a sore thumb and has been for so long already. I have been screaming from the rooftops about it since the beginning of last season. Now, what that means is that in a game as big, as high profile as today, is that when you do these mistakes in other games, you won't be punished. Against Liverpool, you'll be punished, mate. And he was punished in that first half. And the reason we were 2-0 down can only and solely be put down to Casemiro's mistakes. Giving the ball back to Liverpool carelessly. And he did it more than once. It was just 2 that was punished. That eventually made it that we were 2-0 down. We could have been 3-4-0 down in that first half with 1 goal being disallowed as Salah was marginally offside and touched the ball before Trent put it in the back of the net. Now, what does this mean for Manchester United in the future of Manchester United? What it means is that the player that was unveiled before the game in Manuel Ugarte, I wish he had his kit on. If he had his kit on, I wish we could have brought him on at halftime. But instead, we brought on Toby Collier, which is obviously a tough situation to bring a 20-year-old into. A youth academy product from Carrington who hasn't really been fully assimilated into the first team. But, in my opinion, he did well enough and when he came on and he had a decent cameo. Because he knows his role. He knows what his capabilities are, what he can do and what he can't do. And he stays within that range. Casemiro, on the other hand, has delusions of grandeur, which means that when he is in possession, because we spoke about how bad he is out of possession and how he likes to dive in for some reason, which is just crazy. In possession, he is so rash and so quick and rushes so much. He's like having a number 10 playing at DM, losing the ball frequently. It's the position in which, arguably, possession is the most important for you. You are supposed to be the heartbeat of the team, yet you have been stabbing your team in the back for all of last season and the beginning of this season. And the worst part of it is that there were some Man United fans who felt after the Community Shield in the Fulham game that they were like, oh wow, we've got a new Casemiro. There's a new Casemiro here. No, there's not. I didn't even argue about it because I knew the truth would show itself eventually. Let's move on, because the more I talk about that, the more my blood pressure increases. Second main talking point is, amongst other poor performers, Lisandro Martinez poor today. Bruno Fernandes poor today. Alejandro Garnacho poor today. Who else? Obviously Casemiro was poor today. Kobe wasn't great off the ball. So many poor performers. I want to speak about Joshua Zirkzee. And I want Man United fans to be careful in what they're going to and how they're going to react to Joshua Zirkzee's performance. He was trying in that first half to try and find him picking up spaces. And to be fair, the spaces he was picking up were actually good. But the passes were not linking up with the other players. He was not on the same wavelength as the rest of the attackers. But alas, this is his first start in English football. It is obviously not a surprise to anyone that he hasn't adapted to the pace of the league immediately, because that's just not going to be the case. You don't just adapt straight like that, especially coming from Italy to England. Italy, in much way, if you look at the gameplay, compared to the Premier League, is probably the most polar opposite to the Premier League in terms of the paces of the game. So, he also had 2 huge chances that Rashford created for him with great crosses to the back post. One, he had a header that he headed straight at Alisson. The other one that he slid to make contact with and was shy of the back post. Zirkzee, I have a lot of patience for. He's a player I think will do well for Manchester United. Maybe he's another one similar to the another one. He was signed before the team is even ready to make sense for him. Because I don't think our wingers, we'll get onto that in the third bit, but I don't think our wingers are suited necessarily for that. The idea from Ten Hag was to play 2 inside forwards, but you do also need someone that's going to be there and close to link up with Joshua Zirkzee. I think Bruno Fernandes today was poor. Was poor in the press, was poor in possession. I didn't think it was a good performance from Bruno Fernandes. And when you have your best player, if your best player is not playing well, it's going to be tough for you to play well at all in the game. Another issue that I felt from Joshua Zirkzee is his demeanour off the ball. Because you have to be careful with Manchester United fans. Manchester United fans will support players through thick and thin. They're known to do that. As soon as they begin seeing that you look like you don't care, or you're playing as if the desire is not present on the pitch, you're not really applying yourself well, Manchester United fans will turn on you. And it's something that Martial is the closest profile, because recent profile to Xerxes that we have. Martial's a brilliant footballer, and I believe Xerxes is also. But just because of the way that these guys press, or their lack of press, or their lack of intensity in movements and decisions that they make, it can mean that the crowd turns on you. So Xerxes needs to be very, very careful of that. Missed chances happen. Can you apply yourself? Can you really press and be the front foot for the team? If you do that, then I feel like United fans will always be backing you. And that's something that he needs to think about. The third major talking point is obviously the person who has the most responsibility for Manchester United performances, which is the manager. Now, in my previous video that you guys, if you haven't watched it, watch it now, is me explaining what Ten Hag is trying to do with this team. If he does that with Casemiro in the team, this system will never ever work. Manuel Ugarte needs to come in. And with Ugarte coming in, it just means that the dual winning increases. But even still, the system requires the midfielders in a double pivot to do so much. I genuinely believe that Ten Hag will hurt Kobbie Mainoo's career because of how much ground he asked Kobbie Mainoo to cover. Kobbie Mainoo's got to cover up fullbacks. He's got to then shuffle over if Casemiro's lost out in a duel, which the chances of that are high. So he's got to shuffle over to come and cover that. He also has to press. And this thing that he does, where obviously the 4-2 press is meant to be front foot. But if you press with all your 4 attackers and your double pivot, 6 players are pressing, and your back line isn't right behind the double pivot, then there's just going to be gaps. There's going to be gaps. And it was so well exploited by Liverpool because obviously the quality and the talent that Liverpool have. And Liverpool today were ruthless and brilliant, and they deserve the credit for their performance because I think Salah was a joke. I think Gravenberch was a joke. Gravenberch, who I'll put on my one to watch list in the SDS episode. Liverpool really, really took advantage of Manchester United's weaknesses, but the weaknesses fall upon Ten Hag. If you want to play this style of football, it has to be so fully committed for 90 minutes. Now, do the players have the physical capability to do that? I don't think so. I don't know if this team has the physical capabilities to be playing that high, that front foot. And even in our mid-block at times, we look susceptible to midfielders turning the way that Gravenberch did for the offside goal, which was ruled out. Turns so easily. The space is there to be entered into. Casemiro won't cover quick enough. The centre-halves won't jump quick enough because they have players to worry about behind them. Manchester United need to figure out, and Erik Ten Hag specifically needs to figure out, how he gets this team to play the way that he wants them to play. We have the international break now, and Manchester United will have time to reflect, and Erik Ten Hag will have time to reflect on how he wants to continue. Because this is similar to the time in his first season at Manchester United where he made a huge decision about how he wants his team to look. I would respect a manager who sticks by his way, and regardless of if I might not think that it's the best way to play football, stick by your guns and really try and enhance the way this team plays. If it means that defensive line needs to be higher, then it needs to be higher. They need to be engaging. If it means that Ugarte needs to be in there and winning more draws than Casemiro, then it has to be like that. If it means that Ten Hag needs to speak to Kobbie about really changing his game, which I think will be to the detriment of Kobbie, where he has to be someone that's consistently really switched on off the ball, which means that as soon as you get on the ball, you're obviously going to be more tired with the amount of ground that you cover. I felt Rashford was all right today. Rashford on the ball and taking on defenders wasn't great, but he created 2 huge chances of Xerxes that get us back in the game if they're both converted. So I can't really get onto him too much. Ten Hag, the decision not to start Ahmad is just a joke to me because from 70 minutes to 90 minutes was probably United's best period of football. And it was because Amad Diallo was on the pitch. It just allows us to play higher up the pitch. It allows us to look more threatening in the box. Amad Diallo must start every game for Manchester United from now to the end of the season. He must start every game. He just won our Player of the Month, but gets treated and gets gifted with a position on the bench. It's not good enough for Manchester United in this first portion before the international break in this season. Hopefully things change. I want to know you guys' views. Let me know what you guys thought about that game in the comments down below. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.